Unetana no igi nela andi honi gilzane. Here nani wesku netana igi nela igi woni histing. Yes, I say yig zidi woni. Yes, I say yig zigi nela. Yes, the no go who's no less school. Galug warden school andi. I grew up with Cherokee as a first language. I didn't learn how to speak English until I was 6 years old until I started public schools. So Cherokee is my first language in those formative years between birth and 5, 6, 7. In those formative years where you first formulate how you're going to think. In those years, I was very fortunate in being completely immersed. Speaking essentially is how you think. I was fortunate in being able to communicate and to understand the world through the use of that language. We were told that the old people said that the language was given to us by the Creator. It is a gift. If it has been given in such a manner, then it becomes a sacred thing. It is a way in which we reach into each other's hearts. To lose that, they said, to stop speaking that language, is to stop that kind of understanding of the world, and also the robbing of the coming generations of a gift that was intended for them. And we are told that that is theft, and that is not the way human beings are supposed to do, and that is not how you treat gifts. The written form of the language was invented by a man named Sequoyah, who worked for 13 years single-handedly by himself with no help from anyone, on his own in his cabin, to come up with a way to write our language. He himself could not speak English. He could not write English. He wasn't a linguist by any means. He saw where we had contact, where we were now having to deal with a culture that did have a form of communicating like that. And in other words, what he saw basically was that a person could make marks on a piece of paper and could convey to somebody else their thoughts and their ideas. The ways and means in which we accomplished that were based on tradition, culture, and ceremony, and had to be verbally said. The immediacy and the criticalness of the times dictated to him that maybe we should also have a form like that. And without asking anyone's permission, without talking to anyone about it, he set out on a course to write our language. It said that he thought that maybe you could create a symbol for every word that we had, which would run into the millions. So at some point or another, he quickly ascertained that you couldn't do it that way. So he was beginning to learn the fundamental concepts of literacy. It took him 13 years to finally get to that point to where he had perfected it. And what he did was to understand that we have a certain number of sounds in our language. And so he gave a symbol to each of the sounds, which totals 85. We have 85 distinct sounds in our language, and he gave a symbol to each one of those. And so it's not an alphabet, but in fact it's a syllabary. If you are a fluent speaker, you can actually learn the writing system within just a matter of a couple of days. We did not acquire a written form of the language until 1820. In those days it said that they went from being an illiterate society to being 80% literate within a year. It was incredible. Someone traveling through the Cherokee Nation in the late 1820s noted that in traveling through one of the mountain towns was documenting what he was seeing, and he saw a palisaded village of what could be construed as being Stone Age people. And inside the town, he noted several men sitting around reading a newspaper and discussing the excavations that had just begun at Pompeii. Cherokee is a polysyllabic language, which means that it's verb-based. And with Western languages, nouns are the most important things. The very structure in which we view the world is incorporated into how we speak. For example, we do not begin by speaking about ourselves first. In other words, the concept of saying, I am hungry, or all of those kinds of phrases that we know in English all begin with I. It sort of contends that we are the center of the universe. In Cherokee, it's just the opposite. Things out there are noted first, and then we bring it back to where we're at. In other words, we do not say, I see a bear. We say, bear, I see. It indicates a worldview that is different from Western European, and it's very complex. The reasons for language revitalization are many. The reason why all of that effort is important is essentially so that we can continue to be who we are. And it means that in the next generations and the generations to come, we will always be Cherokee. It's the being that is most important. Yaktahan, yik ske unin hosela ale ske gunin nela adahtet ale gohusa de la hostie geste ulilo yik nuntani yik naktahani yik geste osti yik geste tohi yik on de hala yik san sku yelta unelna jiginel idi woniska ale sku ges sku yelta sta digila sa tjik eagle sin totin